If I could actually do it, there would be a bit here where I snap my fingers and my fancy new background comes up, but I can't. So, how about here? Good enough. Now, because I really am that insufferable, I feel the need to clarify that the title only exists because I'm trying to entice a broader audience by speaking in the most commonly accepted vernacular of internet criticism. That's a vernacular I disagree with a lot, but for now it should suffice to say that I don't really believe in liking things ironically or unironically. In principle, there's nothing wrong with it, but constant usage of these terms creates an environment where people forget that if you like something, and you don't need to hide behind irony to do that. Doing so is the reason why internet criticism has so often been devoid of true emotional honesty and sincerity, and man, that can just bring it down. So let's turn to a world where emotional honesty and sincerity have historically been pumped up beyond any other corner of the internet. Fan fiction. I don't buy into the backlash against fan fiction. Not because it's some kind of wealth of quality writing, but because I like a good underdog story, and in the years and years and years that fanfiction has been a thing, its name has never been able to break the stigma of the universal punching bag for the ever-popular cringe and funny bad. Well, since apparently literally every video on this channel is going to tie in some way back to the much-hyped eternal cage match between auteur theory and death of the author, I guess we might as well embrace that and jump straight to it. Come one, come all to the eternal circus of pointless abstract wankery known as Steven's brain, as we dissect cringe from the authorial side and funny bad through the audience. No, I don't have a girlfriend, why do you ask? Okay, so if somebody who knew what they were doing was gonna have this discussion, they'd probably use fanfiction that's considered good for their references. I will do no such thing, mostly because I'm a postmodernist, cultural Marxist, degenerate, SJW, Zionist, Freemason, feminazi, mudblood, but also because my aim is not solely to make a case for fanfiction as a whole, but reshape the fabric of artistic reality by talking about how things that critical analyzers, at least in the academic Western tradition, because I embarrassingly forgot to clarify that in my They Might Be Giants video, would call bad, are actually good. So, for the sake of that convoluted end, and to end this paragraph before I run out of breath, I've chosen the story known as My Immortal. Because you're currently on the internet and clicked on a video with the words My Immortal in the title, I think I'm safe in assuming that you know what I'm talking about, unless you think I'm talking about the Evanescence song, in which case, sorry to disappoint you. But in the unlikely event that you don't know what I'm talking about, My Immortal is a Harry Potter fanfiction and probably the finest example of the form there is in terms of what the format has taken task for. There's really nothing I can say in summary of it that would be a satisfying substitute for actually reading it, but if you're familiar with bad fanfiction at all, you can probably guess at its content with reasonable accuracy. Said content, for completion's sake, involves Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way, a 7th-year Hogwarts student, taking the charge in an epic culture war spread across Hogwarts and maybe the world. Goths versus Preps. Said culture war takes us to meet and greet all your favorite Harry Potter characters, complete with misspelled names, gothic overhauls in appearance and music taste, and a widespread epidemic of goo-goo eyes for our heroine. She pairs up with the dreamy, noted wizard Nazi sympathizer Draco Malfoy, attends concerts of all her favorite musical acts, gets involved in life-or-death drama and adventure, and generally serves to be the black hole in the center of the universe of which all events revolve. But don't take my word for it, pop on down and read it for yourself. Marvel at the spelling and grammar as they slowly deteriorate until the unreadable last few chapters. Gaze deeply at the biologically questionable sex scenes. Peruse the unnecessarily long descriptions of clothing. Pass out as you foolishly actually try to do that freaking TV tropes drinking game. That's a lot of fun stuff, and I heartily recommend giving it a read yourself if it sounds like something you'd be into. I know I sure am. Now, here comes a bit of a digression and something that some may see as a potential invalidation to my arguments here. Was My Immortal written in earnest or not? This is something that I will fully admit to having done a bit too much reading on, sorting through the different people who have claimed to be the author, Tara Gillespie. The most popular candidate in recent times is the writer Rose Christo, who's been linked to Tara's Fiction Press account that she logged onto and updated earlier this year. She was apparently able to provide original files for the first 11 chapters and the email she used to sign up for fanfiction.net. She seems like a swell lady, and she's Undertale trash, which is always much appreciated. Although her being the true author does mean that My Immortal is, in fact, a confirmed trollfic, which makes sense, but nonetheless makes me feel pretty dreary. But whatever, I think the legitimacy of My Immortal is a more or less irrelevant issue anyway. Even if what I'm talking about here doesn't apply to My Immortal in particular, it does apply to numerous fanfiction of similar caliber and content, and if it was meant to provoke, then the author had a good understanding of what they were trying to provoke and infuse the story with it. The spirit of My Immortal, intentionally or otherwise, is the beating core of what could laughably be called cringe culture. Cringe culture is, again, if you're on the internet, a fairly straightforward concept that you're more than likely familiar with. Everything from the vicarious horror movie type thrills of cringe compilations to screen caps of unfortunate children is all lapped up either unconsciously or consciously by a self-congratulatory crowd of people who reassure themselves that they're not like that, or at least not anymore. Look, I've been told I'm immune to a lot of things. Plot holes in illogical storytelling don't bother me. Camera controls in early 3D video games don't bother me. Overwhelmingly saccharine romance doesn't bother me. Sometimes I look in the mirror and suddenly remember that, shockingly, there are actually things I don't like. So I suppose it could be said that I just don't like the idea of cringe because I'm immune to it, and I'm just really good at seeing from the perspective of someone who photoshops themselves romancing a cartoon horse. That's understandable and kinda true, but I also think this is more than just a personal preference of mine. 10 times out of 10, I'll take something that transgresses on our understanding of what's normal and acceptable enough to inspire the reaction of cringe over the emotional deadweight of 100 cringing onlookers who don't want to think about the time they also thought Good Charlotte's The Anthem was a generational statement worth preserving. It's essential for your view of yourself and others to be able to understand where people who strike you as cringe are coming from, whether it be a 10-year-old who's just beat Undertale for the first time and has to go tell everyone about it, or, well, you, when you first beat Undertale for the first time and had to go tell everyone about it. The way that society in general, and the internet especially, utilize the shaming spectacle of cringe is more a tool of conformity than anything else. It discourages us from being completely upfront about the things we enjoy, which is a bad environment not just for critical analysis, but for living in general. What I'm trying to say with all these talky words is, if you really want to take your sensitive bisexual wizard vampire Nazi sympathizer boyfriend on a date to a life-changing emo concert and then celebrate afterwards by getting high and making sweet biologically implausible love into the night, I don't begrudge you. It's not hurting me. Maybe don't date actual Nazis though. Now, all this may lead you to believe that I'm opposed to laughing at things that are supposed to be serious, e.g. the funny bad, or more popular so bad it's good. It's here that I would like to draw an, admittedly somewhat shaky, line between getting genuine enjoyment out of something for reasons other than ones it was written for, some may even say ironic reasons, and making a spectacle out of it to shame the author. Some may say these are one and the same, but I would call it a matter of intent, and savor that sentence because that's probably the most intent is ever going to matter to me on this YouTube channel. But returning to the question, are so bad it's good subjects actually good? Well, insofar as something can be considered good, sure, I enjoy My Immortal, I enjoy The Room, I enjoy Plan 9 and Troll 2 and The Lead Street Boys, and I'm not a fan but the kids like it. What is there to art appreciation besides enjoyment? Quality? I can name tons of things with far more quality that don't even come close to matching the creative energy that My Immortal inspires in me. Quality is ultimately an academic construct built to value certain types of experiences, mostly straightforward and efficient ones. While straightforwardness and efficiency certainly have their merits, they aren't the only ways to approach writing or any other kind of art, and they ultimately put too much value on the author following the rules as opposed to thinking about them. My Immortal, as unreadable as the spelling and grammar is, simply wouldn't be as endearing to me and a lot of other people if it was written in solid English. It's part of the surreal and I'm making this up as I go nature of the experience. I suppose I've said a lot of general, abstract things in this video, and maybe less than most people would like about My Immortal itself, and I will admit I am just kind of milking it because it's a well-known example. But the fact that it is a well-known example makes it a great candidate for telling people about how self-indulgent fanfiction can be both empathically healthy and genuinely enjoyable. It's not good to get lost in your fantasies, of course, but completely suppressing things you enjoy but are embarrassed about isn't healthy. You should embrace the things you like without having to worry about conforming to an arbitrary notion of whether it's good or not. Maybe your personal My Immortal isn't about goths. Maybe it's about a bohemian who saves the world with slam poetry and trance music while occasionally dating Conquer the Squirrel. I'm cool with that, and you should be cool with that, even if you probably shouldn't date any actual squirrels. I suppose if I want this video to inspire anything, it's for you to go and find out what your My Immortal involves. Mine involves being tied up in compromising positions.